This morning, former Labour government minister Byrne is calling for urgent action. His father, who was an alcoholic, died last year. He joins us now, along with Josh Conley, a volunteer working with affected children, and whose own father also died from alcoholism. Very good morning to you both.
Morning, both. Morning.
Liam, this is a very personal issue for you.
Yeah.
For those people who don't know about your story, what happened to your father?
He was an amazing guy. He was the first in his family to get into university. He was a great public servant, and he battled with drink for most of his life. And last year it killed him after a 20-year plunge into the abyss after my mum died. And so it was after he died that I got in touch with the charity actually that Josh works for, called NACOA, which supports children of alcoholics. And they really revealed to me the scale of this kind of great big dirty secret in Britain. 1 in 5 children, as you mentioned. And that's the moment I decided that we would try and do something about it in Parliament. So today we're launching these new figures that show the scale of the problem, and we're launching a parliamentary campaign for change.
It's specifically about children, isn't it? As a child, how did it impact on you?
Well, I mean, if you're the child of an alcoholic, you get to kind of grow up in a kind of an agony of worry. You never know whether you're going to come home and find your mum or your dad on the floor. You live in a kind of constant sense of guilt. You know, am I doing enough? Why can't I sort of stop him or her drinking? So you grow up in that kind of agony of worry. And what children of alcoholics get to know is what it's like to basically feel second best to booze. So we're not anti-drinking this campaign. We're just anti-drinking too much, especially when the victims are children.
Josh, tell us a bit about your experience.
Yeah, so my dad was an alcoholic, and so as a child, it never seemed too wrong to me when I was a child. It seemed very normal. But as I got into my teenage years and started to sort of experience life and the way things are, that's when I started to sort of struggle with life and just the way things were. But because as a child, denial was very strong, you know. So.
Do you mean your denial within the family? Do you mean everyone, was it people ignoring it? When you talk about, was there a responsibility on you that was different from other people somehow?
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing my mum upset quite often because of my dad's drinking, and so, you know, as a child, I learnt to just sort of be okay, you know. I didn't want to sort of be the burden of any more problems on my mum, you know, because I saw how upset she was from other things. So this learning to be okay, I sort of took right through to adulthood, really, and that's the great denial of this, because it's such a secret, and there's nobody. As a child, there was nowhere I felt I could go to talk to anyone about it. Do you know what I mean?
Which is very much what this campaign is about, isn't it? And these figures showing that local authorities just don't have any setup to deal with
the figures just. It's just so shocking. I mean, it basically shows no part of England has got a plan in place for children of alcoholics. That's 2.5 million people. These kids, right, they are 3 times more likely to become alcoholics themselves. They're 3 times more likely to try and take their own lives. They're 5 times more likely to develop eating disorders. So they're in a lot of trouble, and there isn't a single part of the country that's got a plan in place to help them. So, yeah, that's why we're saying, look, there needs to be more investment in helplines like NACOA. We need to make sure that there's a big public information campaign aimed at hard drinking parents so they know the damage they're doing their kids. But look, above all, every part of the country needs a plan in place. That's the very least we can do.
And Josh, from your point of view, you talked a bit about how you were coping with it. The research shows that you're more likely to become dependent on alcohol yourself. How did it impact you in that sort of sense?
I mean, from a very young age, I was, you know, while other children were planning to be doctors or lawyers, I was planning to not be alcoholic.
Right.
That was all I ever wanted from life. But I found alcohol when I was about sort of 13, and because I always had to create these characters, life was very, very difficult, and alcohol gave me release from that, you know. And probably by 18, I was drinking to an extent where it was causing me problems in my life.
Do you know that, I mean, there will be, you'll know this very well, there are going to be people watching this now who are living in a household, one way or another, that's affected by alcohol. And, you know, that secrecy you talked about, keeping it within the family and not talking to anyone and knowing who to talk to when. What do you say to someone in that circumstance, Josh?
To the children, I would definitely say that it's not normal. It's not normal to have drinking to that extent in the household, and if you can if you can get to a stage where you can talk about it, then it's certainly going to help you through into adult life. You know, you're going to... It's about learning skills, because I never learned any life skills. I never had any sort of tools for living when I reached adulthood, because I just sort of suppressed everything and put on an act, you know. And so when I finally found Nakoa, I kind of realised, you know, the link between the two, because I just thought I was different. I never realised that there was a clear link between being the child of an alcoholic and how I was feeling.
Oh.
Well, it's very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, and thank you for your time this morning as well.
Thank you. 17 minutes past 8. If you want more information on that, there is on our website as well.